Good evening, everyone. Hi, welcome to this month's Fearlessness webinar with me, Dr. Aitsi-Selmi, and the amazing Goldie Sayers. I see there's Jana, Gary, Rachel, and Rosa here. Welcome. It's great to see you here. We'll see, there'll probably be some people joining us later. But this could be a very cozy, intimate webinar. We'll get to discuss lots of things in detail rather than in breadth. So just in case you're wondering, this is the face your fear and take a leap in your career. I can't say it, but basically facing your fears to follow your own unique career path, not the one that's prescribed. That's the general idea. I'm Dr. Aitsi-Selmi. I help people with their careers, with leadership, stepping outside their comfort zone, but without the burnout. So doing it in a peaceful way. And just want to check that you can hear me, and also Goldie, if you want to say hi, just
I'm here too. Goldie's in the room, nearly. Yeah,
great.
You, but understandably, people don't always like to be on video.
Yes, yeah. If you want to show your faces, we'd appreciate that. It's always nicer for the connection. Hi, Rosa.
Great.
Rachel, hey. Jay, hi. So it's nice to see familiar faces. Welcome. And if you don't want to show your face, that's fine too. But if you want to show it, we'd love to see it. So if you're calling from wherever you're calling, let us know. And also let us know if you have a big question that you'd like to have addressed by the end of today. Or think of a question that if you could sort of get the answer to, you feel you've made progress, you'll have had a bit of a breakthrough wherever you are. What's next? So I'll just tell you a little bit about me, and then we'll get to some gold from Goldie. I used to be a doctor, for those of you who don't know me, or I am a doctor, but I don't practice as a doctor, and had a career as a public health consultant and as an academic, and I felt that I wanted to do something different, and I wanted to work independently, and I wanted to incorporate more psychology, more coaching, more change methodologies, because I believe that's how we could really make a difference in the world, rather than with more, that's how I thought I could contribute anyway, rather than with more technical knowledge, which I loved and enjoyed, but I felt, something new was happening. And that's how I created my new career as a transformational coach and consultant. Happy to share all the gory details of that change. You can find all the gory details on my website, www.drravina.com. I write a weekly blog called The Wise Wednesdays. You can join the mailing list if you're interested. And feel free to get in touch. And now I want to introduce Goldie. Unless someone has a burning question or if there's a tech issue, let us know. I'll be keeping an eye on the chat if you want to chip in with anything. But Goldie is a former athlete. I'll let her introduce herself the way she wants, but I know her as an Olympic medalist, high-level athlete, who has shifted in the last 2 or 3 years to a new career and runs her own property development business and also coaches, I believe.
Yeah, so I guess it's my business or career change, I guess, is enforced. I mean, I would have stayed an athlete my whole life if I could, but it is the one career where you have to start thinking about retirement in your 30s, if you're lucky, or potentially 20s. So yeah, I guess I had to find a new career path, but being, how old was I? 34 when I retired. I knew what I didn't want to do, but yeah, and then I love property. I had some experience in it from just moving home a lot and keeping hold of houses, and I tried lots of different things. I can go through all of them if I can remember them, but having a huge challenge or setting crazy targets for me is what really turns me on. So I knew I had to potentially run my own business, or at least find kind of like-minded people. And that's how my property business kind of took shape, really. And I love it. So it's fun, which is also important.
Yeah. And when we were preparing earlier, it really struck me, some of the things you said, because just to give a bit of background, so that the people, the type of person that I am, the type of people I work with and coach are usually professionals who've gone through a specialist training, lots of doctors or lawyers or people in other sectors who are used to knowing the answers and being the people who know the answers to complex things. And we don't like asking for help. We don't like, we feel vulnerable. We don't like reaching out and saying, oh, I need some help because I'm struggling. Whereas in sport, it's very different.
Yeah, I think in sport, I mean, I think the medical professional industry, or it's not an industry, but kind of is, and that's often where the problem lies, is that medics and surgeons especially are so used to being right or thinking they're right that they won't admit to their mistakes, and that's why often things don't progress. Anyway, that's my opinion, and I there's other medics out there. But
a few doctors on here.
Yeah.
Don't take offense, everybody. This is an honest webinar.
I've met a lot of surgeons in my life. And yeah, and I think in sport you're constantly wanting feedback. And I'm currently doing a master's in sporting directorship, kind of for fun, anyway. And what's interesting in a lot of that research I've done, and speaking to really high-level athletes, what they struggle most with around transition is not getting feedback, because you're constantly, in order to be the best you can be, you need to know what you're doing wrong to be able to improve. And I think we're desperately in sport, you know, you have a short career and you're expected to be at your very best in your, 20s. And so you need to really kind of get there really, really quickly. And the only way to do that is have experts in your team and constantly ask for help or try and find out more information and get better. And that the only way you can do that is to ask for help and get feedback. So I constantly kind of go out and get as much coaching and as much information as I can, I think, in my new career now. And if I always think at the end of your career, so at the end of my sporting career, if I knew, you always wish you knew what you did at the end of your career at the start, but that's because you're constantly learning, however good you are. I mean, I was one of the best in the world, but God, I didn't know. Probably the more you know, the more you realize you don't know, I guess.
Yeah, I was really struck by that, because I asked Goldie, what's your top thing, what would you say to avoid pitfalls in a career change, or if you're trying to move into something different or even diversify your current career portfolio? And it struck me that without hesitation, Goldie said coaching. And what you said is that in sports, you have to have a coach. That's how you become the best. That's how you perform at your highest level and hit your targets and achieve your goals. And it did, although I am a coach and I love coaching, I'm totally sold on coaching, it did strike me that, kind of loving that feedback and that support, not because you're helpless, but because you want to be your best. And I would say translate that into fulfill your potential. To fulfill your potential, you need that kind of constant cycle.
I think you need challenge, and you need to constantly, to get confident in anything, you constantly have to push your comfort zone and challenge yourself. Otherwise you kind of always stay at the same level. And I think, I guess coaching and mentoring are slightly different, but they are different. So I guess certainly going into property, I employ a coach, but I also have mentors as well, or other mentors, or I try and get as many as I can, really, because everyone has a slightly different opinion on things, and there's some very practical things in property. There's so much you can know or learn, or strategies you can employ and it's forever changing. So for me, it's just about, not making some of your future mistakes, but also you end up not making their mistakes that they've made. So again, it's just about accelerating knowledge, and I've always found it really, really helpful. And sometimes you grow out of coaches. Like I had 3 significant coaching changes in my career, and you need different things at different times. And you should, at some point, when you become an expert in your field, you kind of outgrow your coaches, or you get to a point where you know more than they do often. If you're constantly wanting to get better, some people aren't turned on by that, and that's fine. But and coaching other people is another way to get better at things, I think. because you're sort of always, certainly in sport, I would always coach sort of younger athletes, or say heptathletes in my javelin, because it reinforces what's most important, and the thing that gives you the biggest kind of bang for your buck in a way, in terms of improvement.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I'm kind of wondering what people, if you counted the number of people on your team, because you were mentioning you had several mentors, Goldie, you have different coaches. How many people would you say are on your team, your support team, as you go through your career change or you're building your new business? And I wonder if everybody else wants to do that exercise as well. Just think, how many people are supporting me or part of my team on my new track, that I can count and say, yeah, this person I kind of interact with regularly, or when I interact with them, it's quite significant. And they're not from your old world. They're not people who drain you. They're not people who kind of make you doubt. The opposite. I think, yeah, I could probably count them on one hand at the time that I was going through a change. Yeah, I don't know, maybe that's enough. I don't know what your thoughts are, Goldie. How many people do you need on your career reinvention team?
I'd say I've definitely got 4 I kind of consult with regularly. I've got a networking group, which is, could be up to 50 people, but of those 50 people, maybe 3 or 4 I have regular-ish contact with. It's sort of touch points, I think, often. But then there's obviously courses and everything else. So yeah, and then there's other people, within my immediate family and friends who are very supportive and get what I'm doing. Well, they don't understand it, but they get, they see the results of my work, I guess.
They support you if it works.
And then actually within the business, there's lots of other people. So there's so they would be just sort of mentors. I've just written a few down. But then obviously I work with, builders, property kind of managers, in the various different places. So yeah, in terms of the team, there's probably, I don't know, probably 15 maybe people. 15,
okay. Yeah. And are any of them you employ them?
No, I always avoid. I'm trying to grow quite a big business without actually employing people. No, because I pay them, but I employ them, but very they're not an employee.
As an ad hoc contractor.
Yeah, so a contract. Yeah, so like on a contractual basis. But so, and then I think that's a good way to keep quite small.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. And I think there's 2 directions. I feel like there's 2 directions we could go here. Either looking at the emotional journey of change, and I'm curious as to how it happened for you. I sometimes talk about the emotional cycle of change and share that when I speak or whatever. And people can often find it informative, because they don't realize there is a cycle of change, and it's okay to feel confused and completely in the darkness when you're going through a change, and actually not knowing that can keep you stuck because you think there's something wrong and you don't want to go further. Or there's the more practical strategic direction, is kind of the financial freedom direction. There's this idea amongst people who want to change careers or do something different, that I want financial freedom. I want not only intellectual and creative freedom, but also want financial freedom, and maybe feel that I never have to work again. Just want to check with people listening, what would be most interesting to you? What kind of questions do you have? Are they more in the realm of the inner work, like what it takes in terms of mindset and how that translates into behavior, but the sort of the root cause or the root of the change cycle, which is what's going on inside you? Or whether you're more interested in strategy and practical things, like how do you build a business, or how do you create financial freedom? How do you develop a property business, like Goldie, and maybe some of you already have. So are you more on 1 or more on 2? And do you have any specific questions? I'd love to hear. Rachel's impartial, happy with either. Rosa, a bit of both. Jay, interested in hearing about the inner work, particularly on the intellectual and creative side. Sally, would be interesting knowing how to navigate the uncertainty. Yeah. So on balance from Sarah, probably the first more so in interrogating that with more focus. Yeah, it's okay. That's interesting. So it seems that it's the inner work, the mindset, the heart set. That's most interesting, and I'm totally I love starting at the root cause, upstream factors that stop us from doing things and fulfilling our potential. So let's go in that direction, if that's all right with you, Goldie.
Yeah, no, absolutely, love that. Yeah.
So I don't know if you maybe just want to tell us your story from a personal perspective, how it felt for you to come to early 30s, I think you said, and realize, right, I have to stop this career you invested in so much, and that you achieved at such a high level, and you obviously in the media, so can't just do this behind closed doors. How the experience went, and that the journey maybe to the other side.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, I guess, wrapped up in that, in terms of being an Olympic athlete, there's so much identity mixed in with being an Olympic athlete, or in any profession where it's been your whole life. I would say in sport you invest like 24 hours a day in it. It's not like a 9 to 5, and it's a very, very emotional roller coaster as well. And you do have to commit wholeheartedly to the whole thing, and there's sacrifices, etc. But I think the one thing I'm very grateful for is I did what I loved. So on the one hand, you sacrifice, going to friends' weddings, you miss all sorts of things, and all that kind of things, I guess, in your 20s that most kind of normal 20-year-olds would be doing. But I was, I never felt like I'd really worked a day in my life. But that can have a flip side, in that, you don't really want to do something that you don't enjoy, and you're not passionate about. I think most athletes will give 110% to anything and are very, very focused. But a lot of friends I know, or Olympic athlete friends, really, really struggle with transition. I think I was lucky in that I found something that I absolutely loved. I did have, just in all honesty, I did have a bit of a financial cushion because I had a couple of buy-to-let properties. So that was the reason for thinking, well, I've got this passive income. Why don't I learn how to do this properly? I tried sitting in a corporate environment for a couple of weeks, and I deliberately just did work shadowing, because I knew there is a bit of a commitment issue, because that you're going to commit to something, but you don't want to do it too soon. So I just went and I find, personality profiling and things really interesting. I thought I did. So why don't I go and do that? I sat in this office, and I cannot sit at a desk more than 4 hours is my max. I can't do any more, because I just need to move my body, and I still train. I have to train. And did that. I did a massage. I was always interested in physio because I had a lot of injuries. I know a lot, but I'm just not, actually qualified. But I'm constantly treating people and stuff, and thought, well, maybe I should do that. Then I thought, well, I don't. I just didn't. For me, I've done one thing for so long that I didn't want to do one thing. I kind of almost wanted a bit of a portfolio career, and I knew I do a fair bit of speaking. I do a lot of different things. I coach in sport. I sort of consult from a performance perspective in another sport. And I knew the only thing I could be able to carry on doing all those other bits is to run my own business. So then I just went to a few seminars, and then literally caught the bug and was like, right, no, that's who I am. That's what I want to do. And I guess that was certainly 6 months after I retired. I started going to a lot of courses and things like that. And then I guess I started the business maybe 9 months later. But I know from experience and from doing my dissertation at the moment, it usually takes people, certainly athletes, so from retirement, at least 2.5 years to feel even vaguely like they know what they're doing. And these are really capable people. They just worry about And most people worry about, I'm really good at this, but I want to make sure I'm as good at, or find something else I'm as good at. And and it's tough, because you go, you know, in your mid 30s, from being Olympic gold medalist, a lot of these guys, to, you know, going in at graduate level jobs when they're wildly capable, but once they then learn the skill, then they're off. But if you don't really like what you're doing, so for me, it's just finding something you're passionate about, because if you find something you're passionate about, you're willing to put the time in, and it doesn't feel like work, and you're willing to probably start at a lower level and build it, and you're going to get better at it because you love it. So for me, that's the number one starting point.
Yeah.
Even if it's just something you're interested in. I mean, for me, I never thought in a million years I'd make a living for 15 years out of throwing a javelin. I mean, when I was handed it at school. But was just taken with it, and then trained and got better, and, you know, there's a lot of trial and error involved. And so yeah, it's just the lovely thing about property is I can make a good living out of it as well, which I actually never really did in sport, in a way. I mean, not, you can earn a damn sight more out of Olympic sport than you can in so yeah, so I've never really done anything that I don't love, but there's elements of both that I don't love, but you do it because you know what each little step each day, consistent behaviors, what that looks like, you know, a year, 2 years down the line.
It's interesting when you said it takes, from in your experience and your research, and in my experience as well, that it takes 2 to 2.5 years to actually come out of that emotional cycle of change and have some clarity and say, okay, I know what I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Is that because that's the point at which you're likely to find something, or is that because you've learned enough that you've got the confidence to say, okay, this is what I'm doing now?
I think from my research with other people, and myself as well, I mean, I was really enjoying what I was doing, but it was just the identity piece that hadn't quite got in. I still felt, you know, a bit like I was attached to sport and still emotionally involved somehow.
And how did you navigate that kind of mixed phase in the middle, where you have a lot of doubt? And I see it in people, I've seen it in myself. You have a lot of doubt, you keep getting pushed backwards and forward. Maybe I should go back, maybe this is crazy. You're in that
yeah, I suppose
no man's land.
I couldn't, you have to, like, I couldn't compete at the same level. If I could, I'd have carried on, but so I had to sort of step out. So therefore, I think just knowing that it's difficult, there's a big thing in that. I think that's what helped me most in transition, is talking to retired Olympic athletes about 7 years before I actually retired. Being on certain like bodies or boards with them. So I was hearing about how rubbish retirement is from sport. So I thought, wow, it's going to be awful.
Yeah, that's not very encouraging.
No, but it was good, because then I thought, right, it's going to be awful, so let's prepare for it being awful. And actually, I'm like, this is great. I can, you know, do what I want when I want. I've got freedom. You know, I had that, but not really. Like, you had this whole space of your brain that you could then utilize for useful things that was taking up with worrying about, you know, your performance the whole time. So yeah, I think that's I mean, for me, it's how, in terms of practical steps, I have a very sort of structured routine from when I get up, and I'm a massive goal setter. Like, I do that constantly, and I'm always writing, and just for myself, it doesn't go anywhere. But in terms of just mindset, and that's the biggest thing that most people I see struggle with, and I coach a few people in property investment, and it's like they know all the stuff, they know what they're doing, but it's just the mindset, and to kind of keep going and not give up, and just really stay quite close to your goals, because you can get pulled in different directions, and people can say things, and you know, you think you're doing the wrong thing 1 minute, and then someone else will change your mind. So it's really just trying to keep as focused as you can do. And for me, that's about setting goals. I set them yearly and then each quarter. But more than that, doing, you know, how much of what is it you want to do, how much of it, by when, who's going to help you, and how you're going to celebrate. But really, you know, drilling down into the detail, and then you review those goals. Well, I review them almost every day. It doesn't have to be for long, and then I write and I read, and I think it's what you feed your mind with is really important.
Mm. And is this something that you did, the goal setting, was that something that you did also as an athlete, or is it something you picked up afterwards when you had to put your own goals?
I did it. Yeah, I mean, our goals were almost pretty much ingrained, I guess, from a young age. Obviously, it was always about the Olympics. That was the main goal. So they're kind of almost created for you in a way. And they're more, I guess, well, they are dreams and goals. And each year you would have a major championship. But in hindsight, I probably didn't do as much goal setting as I could have done. So I do it much more since I've retired, actually, because you're actually in control of a lot more than in sport. Sport's a very, very chaotic environment. You can control your own performance, but you can't really control what other people do. So it's something I've done definitely a lot more of since retiring.
That's interesting. And you use the word retired. That's how I felt as well when I shifted career. I felt I've retired, but I thought, what am I retiring from exactly? And it's a feeling of, I want to retire from the rat race. I want to retire from this constant stress. But I didn't really know what it would look like. But there was definitely a feeling of retiring from something. And I think if you're a high achiever, then do you think there is something about, I don't want to be stressed in my achievements or about my achievements. I want more control. Maybe I want more creativity incorporated, more autonomy. I want to achieve where I want to achieve, not where society or an organization or profession is telling me how to achieve. Do you resonate with that at all?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think we all still do it. It's human nature, and it's, how the brain works. There's a part of that that's always going to exist. But I think for me, it's knowing, we talked about it a little bit earlier, about your values. So if you can really, really nail down who you are, and what, drives you and what is most important to you, then it can help you know where you're trying to get to, but or what kind of life you want to create. But also it can tell you why you're getting stressed, because if you're not living to your values, then that will create stress in your brain. If those values are being what's the word, kind of trampled upon in a way.
Betrayed.
Yeah, so through other people's goals effectively, or their ideas on where they want to take their business that you're working for or whatever. So
and you told me about a little exercise that you use with your clients to identify values, and how in fact what people think is their values is actually what they think it should be, rather than their real values. And when they do the exercise, it turns that they're a little bit surprised maybe by what the top value is. And then if they honor it, life is a bit smoother. So you can think, my top value is to be, I don't know, loyal, or to, I think you gave the example of family. Family is my top value. But then it might be something else. It might be fun, or it might be adventure. And you didn't realize that about yourself.
Yeah, we can do that exercise if people would be interested. I don't know.
So yeah, why not? Do people want to do questions and just come online and ask something? Goldie's very generously offered her time until 7. So if you want to ask anything about career change, performance, then I can chip in as well. Either type it in the chat or come online, just raise hand. Rachel, raise her hand. Or we can do values exercise, which will probably take us maybe until the end. So if you want values, put values. If you want more interactive, then tell us, say that. And maybe we can do both.
I think it may take 10 minutes.
10 minutes? Okay. So it might take 10 minutes. So let us know in the chat. Both sounds good, both. Wow, you're such an easy audience to please. But Rachel, please come on.
Hi, thank you both for sharing, and thank you, Goldie, for sharing your story with us today. It's very inspiring. I kind of honestly, I looked you up just briefly, and I looked at all the media attention and so on, the wikis, and it's an honor to have you here. So thank you. Just as a disclaimer, I am a doctor. Still.
I don't dislike doctors. I think doctors are bloody amazing. But how you're expected to know everything? Don't think any.
But what you said resonates with me anyway, because I agree with you. The number of times that people go in with, this sort of God complex certainty, and it completely defies the point of medicine, which is to help people, even physically, figure out what works for them. Rather, I know what you want best. One of the things that kind of always comes up in self-help and psychology, etc., is setting a goal.
Yeah,
and that's brilliant to kind of have a specific goal for oneself.
Yeah,
but equally, there's a lot of sort of there are a lot of kind of positive measures around having specific niche areas in one's career, which kind of thrusts you forward, because if you're expert on something, you're very good at particularly doing this one thing. What I personally struggle with is the idea of focusing something in my career, because I suffer from the disease of boredom, and if I am not toxically busy, but if I'm not busy enough and having my hand in several pies, I will drop it all and just do nothing, and I kind of swing between the two. And I appreciate there's a sort of there's a balance between how busy one can be and what they're involved in, and focusing to achieve, financial success and so on. But personally, I don't know. My question is it the goal setting that's important, or is it the vision setting that's kind of a bit, that can work?
Yeah. Do you want me to go, Emil? Or?
Yeah, please.
I think, no, it's interesting. I think we're probably relatively similar. It's not that I get bored, but if I'm not being challenged, or I guess busy, not in the disease of being busy, but just I like being challenged. So, and I think variety for me is really important as well. So I guess to answer your question, I would say vision. You need a vision of what you want your life to look like effectively. And in terms of the goal setting thing, I wouldn't ever say just one goal. I always believe in quite a balanced life. So I have goals for like health or fitness, perhaps, family, relationships, business. I mean, that tends to be quite the main sort of focus, but that's just because I like targets and stuff. I have no interest really in money. I just like progress. That's what I'm most addicted to. And then you could have, and the hobbies, giving back. So I think where people struggle is if they put all their focus onto one thing and then that goes wrong for whatever reason, then they literally feel like, their life is over. And that happens a lot in relationships, mostly, I would say. That's where people tend to put like too much emphasis, where if they haven't then got all these other things that balance out their life, and if you lose one of those things, it's okay, because you've got these, maybe 8 other goals or areas of your life you're trying to develop. So I'd say, start with a vision of how you want to live, really, or what sort of lifestyle you want, I guess, and then work backwards from that. And people use vision boards or pictures, or if you're visual or creative, or and usually usually it's like the process of getting to that goal should be the fun bit, really. Like achieving it is nice, but then you sort of often set something else. You do have to celebrate success as well, which is often what high achieving people don't do.
Yes. And I'll chip in as I classify myself as a recovering overachiever, and something that helped me, Rachel, was to be okay with boredom, because the other side of boredom is relaxation, and giving yourself space, giving your brain space to recover, and your body, I guess, to recover and be able to perform tomorrow. Being bored's okay. Sometimes. Does that help, Rachel, from Goldie and me?
No, it's good. It's good to know that that becoming one thing is no longer the way forward necessarily for most people. This is who I am, and that's it, and that's how I achieve success. That's actually
Yeah, and then we're into like self-acceptance territory. Like what you're feeling now is what you're feeling now, and it's totally fine. The more you accept it, the more you can move on to the next thing. The more you resist it and tense against it, like, no, why am I bored? Something is wrong. The longer that will last. It's my experience anyway. Yeah, shall we do the 6 values exercise? Goldie, do you want to lead us through it? It seems like there's enthusiasm for it. You need 6 pieces of paper. That's one thing.
Well, actually, we've got post-it notes.
Or
I
post-it.
wasn't necessarily expecting to go through this, so I haven't got post-it notes. But what I have got is a piece of paper. If you've got post-it notes, then get 6 of them.
Okay.
If you've got a piece of paper, then just fold it in half.
Got post-it notes.
And then into thirds, I guess. And then all you're going to do is like Blue Peter. Is you're just going to, all I want effectively is 6 pieces of paper that are all separated.
6 separate pieces of paper.
Yeah, that's what you need. So you can just use A4. I'm trying to save the planet. So you can divide.
Here's some I've just made.
Yeah. I could have just said get 6 pieces of paper. Right, we're there. Okay, and I'm just going to ask you to write down on the first piece of paper what is the most important thing to you in life.
Okay.
And you may be able to answer that very quickly, or you may not be able to answer that really quickly. If you've written down something like family, then that's kind of a chunk word. So you've got to decide, does family mean support? Does it mean love? Does it mean, for some people, it might mean providing? It can mean very different things to different people. So if you've put something like that down, then try and nail down exactly what that is.
Okay, so try and tease it out, whether it's connection, whether it's support, whether it's...
And then on the next piece of paper, write down what else is most important to you in life.
Okay.
And then, funnily enough, on the third piece of paper, I'm going to say, what's also most important to you in life? Effectively, I just want 6 things that are really important to you.
Okay, so what else is most important to you, everyone?
So this one would be your 4th one.
Okay.
And then
what else is most important to you?
What else is most important?
I think I'm getting the hang of this.
And if you want to, in the order that you've done them, just put a number 1, a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6 on them. And you may be struggling a little bit as you get towards the bottom. So I'm trying to think what, people I know or work with have written. Some, may have said fun, some say loyalty, some say honesty, connection, love, family, adventure, learning.
Wow.
Fairness,
super interesting.
Fairness, anything like that. So, it could be anything, and there's no right or wrong. It's just you as a unique human being. Okay, has everyone got 6 roughly?
Everybody got their 6? If you can type yes, then it gives us an idea. We can move on to the next piece. Not yes. Oh,
it took me ages, so that was why.
Is it okay if people have 4 to start with?
Yeah, it could be. The principle would remain the same. So what we're going to do now is, so you've got your 6, and put them, if you can, put them in front of you on the table.
Okay, put them in.
And then I'm just going to ask you the question. If you had to give one of those away, which one would it be?
Right. So remove one from the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you've got your list on your left-hand side, put that one at the bottom of the right-hand side.
Okay. So left are the values you keep, and on the right are the values you drop.
Well, yeah, the ones you drop, but put the first one that you've just thrown away at the bottom. And then I'm going to ask you what would be the next one that you would throw away? If you had to get rid of one, what would it be?
Okay. All right.
So, and this can be a bit of a struggle.
Don't be too attached, everybody.
If you had to get rid of another one, which would it be?
All right. Done.
So that one goes on top of the last one, and the last one goes on top of the previous one. Okay, and if you had to give up another one, which would it be? And almost in a way, don't think too hard about it, just go with what you feel. And it may be a bit of a struggle now, but you have to get rid of another one.
Okay, so get rid of a fifth value, or move it at least to the other side. It's just an exercise, everyone. It's not going to define your life. Don't worry.
But it might.
Nothing bad's going to happen. You can feel like that.
So in doing that,
coaching voodoo.
Sorry, we've got a message, but I can't read all of it. I'm doing it as if
Sally says, I'm doing this exercise as if my life depends on it.
because it's like, yeah, there's no right or wrong by the way, people. I know you may all be medics and things, but it's okay. And also bear in mind, so effectively you will end up, so if everyone's finished,
all the perfectionists out there, let go.
Basically, so hopefully on your right hand side you'll have 6 pieces of paper, and the first one you threw away should have gone at the bottom, so you label that 6, and then the second one you threw away should be on top of the 6th one, and that's going to be labeled 5.
Yeah.
And then the next one is 4, then 3, then 2, and the last one you throw away, moved, is your highest value.
Yeah, that is fascinating.
What has happened is, like, I haven't done it with you actually, but you may have one that was, came to you 3rd, but actually when you've done that second exercise, it then jumps up to the top. And because I've asked you to get rid of one, you tend to use your gut or your subconscious a little bit more. So that tends to be the actual order of what's most important to you. They're all still going to be values that are really important, but some people struggle obviously with the last 2, say, often.
Yeah. Did anybody struggle, and does anybody want to share their top value in the box, just to see what people's values are? I was surprised actually, because how much am I going to reveal on this webinar? So my list isn't quite what I thought, but when I see it, it's like, yeah, okay, Goldie, this is interesting. And I thought my top value would be peace. And it turned out to be fearless living.
Okay.
I'm sure that it can go deeper and then something else might come out, but I wasn't expecting fearless living, because fearless living for me, I put it there because it just came out, but I thought, that's too much hassle. That is quite a lot of effort, fearless living, quite a lot of stress, and I'm kind of all about not that. But maybe fearless living can be peaceful if you're facing the right fears, because that gets you to the next bit of peace.
I think it's a little bit, I mean, my there's one thing to say about this, is that it does change according to kind of where you are.
Yeah.
I think your 6 won't always change like hugely, potentially, but it will change according to where you are in life or what you're wanting to do and things like that. So mine, I'm happy to share, would be things like the order may change occasionally, but like adventure, learning, challenge, love, I'm trying to think of a fifth, like fun comes into it, but that can mean different things. That's sort of a challenge to me. So yeah, so that kind of thing. But then
but, well, there's some interesting feedback. Thank you, Jay, for your comment. She says, I'm already living fearlessly. Oh. Petra says that she was surprised that support was her number one.
Yeah.
Sally says she thought it'd be all about high achievement, but it turned out to be about relationships and love. Oh, well, that's nice.
And also the interesting thing about this exercise is it can really drill down as to why you get stressed. So for Sally, was it you know, if you're wanting to high achieve and things, but that means that you're not able to spend enough time with your family or your partner or whatever, then that will really stress you out. So it's just being aware that you need to then make time for both. So you need that downtime as well. So it's a good way of just keeping tabs on, you know, whether you're really kind of in touch with your soul, I guess, and you know, well, but actually, you know, so I know for me, if I just do one strategy and things, I get bored, and if I haven't got enough challenge and learning, like I have to have kind of no other way of saying it, shit yourself moments in my career where I'm really like out of my comfort zone, because I guess of my sports background of having to perform, you know, with 6 billion people watching sort of thing. So I get very bored very easily. Went to an office and did a mundane job and that sort of thing. So I've just found that exercise really, really helpful. So I just
I really appreciate you leading us through that, and it sounds like people got some valuable insights out of it. Jay says her top value is appreciating joy rather than something professional. I think that's important for professionals who, you know, we're defined by our professions as medics, for example. It's a vocation, right? You're always a medic. You don't stop being a medic at 5. So I think those shifts in identity and mindset are important as we allow ourselves to step into something new that's not built on our professional identity. So I think that was very valuable. Thank you. I'm wondering if anybody else wants to come on. Goldie, are you willing to take another 1 or 2 questions before you go? I know you need to go at 7.
I want to know what everyone wants to do.
So, Jay, go ahead.
Thank you. I had a question about, so I guess some different, obviously, but similar in your career. You obviously were working in a particular culture. And so that point where I guess you knew at some point you'd have to leave that, but that change was still quite a marked change. And I guess I'm thinking of kind of work cultures or toxic work cultures, or cultures where you might not be the right, somebody said to me, you need to find the right plant pot to place yourself in, so where you might not be the right plant in the plant pot kind of thing. How you navigated that bit of it, like because that's quite a big shift to go from a very sports filled environment to a very different one, and kind of how similar to how did you navigate any doubts that you had, realizing obviously you can go back, but what did you do? What were your tactics or tools that you would employ to get through that part of it?
Certainly that's where people come in. So finding, you know, good people or people that you have similar values to, I guess, within your industry that you're going in is really important. And I know you can't always do that in a, say, profession or somewhere where you've been employed. You're kind of slightly lumbered with those people. But in terms of culture, I think I would get really frustrated. I can't bear politics, or work politics, so that is one of the reasons, and that I know would stress me. So that's partly why I've set up my own business, because then I don't have to deal with that, or I can do it and I can put different hats on when I have to, but it's so I have kind of ownership of that. And if I did want to set up a business where I'm employing people, I know that I would can start it from the ground up and create a culture that is positive. I guess in terms of handling a toxic culture, it's either try and change what's impacting you or just change your attitude to it, or change altogether, I guess. But I guess with that values exercise, it's finding out what it is that is really annoying you about that, or is really impacting you, and why it is, more importantly. And then I guess, if you can do something about it, I guess it's trying to talk to the right person about it. It's because people end up starting to whinge about toxic cultures, and I think that's what gets really debilitating. So rather than whinge about it, it's whinging to the right person. It is, isn't it? Someone who can actually change that. But often in big businesses, it's such a sort of slow moving juggernaut that they're quite difficult to turn around. But I do actually believe cultures can be changed really, really quickly, but it is a leadership thing.
Thanks.
Top down. I think you can change them overnight if you really want to, and if you've got the right people. But the problem is, I don't think you can when the leadership doesn't want to change and people are in roles for the wrong reasons or whatever. So yeah, it's
the L word, leadership. And leadership, there's self-leadership obviously, and then there's leadership of others. And I guess what I'm hearing from you is that it helps to have a team or a tribe or whatever you want to call it, because otherwise the path is lonely and more difficult. Jay, do you have anything else you want to ask around that while we still have Goldie?
No, that's great. Yeah, it resonates quite a lot with, I guess, my journey with things. So I've made quite a big shift from being a medic into public health and quite in big international agencies, and I'm now kind of jumped to go freelance. And part of that was kind of understanding more about myself and where I fit within a culture, and that point of how do you change cultures if leadership doesn't have the right tools to make those changes. And like you, I believe it can change quite quickly, but you really need every bit of the jigsaw puzzle to kind of fit into place.
Yeah, and I guess it's knowing also when to let things just, go over your head a bit and not get too worried about it. I guess if you're anything like me, which I'm sure you are, is, it really bothers you when people aren't treated well, and things could be done so much more efficiently. That's why I would really struggle in a big organisation. Well, that's why I do struggle in big organisations, is seeing inefficient behaviours and inefficiencies, I guess. So,
yeah. And in the end, I believe there are only 4 choices we have. It's not always as complicated as it seems. So either we do nothing, we just carry on and accept whatever's going on, or we change the situation, or we change our attitude about the situation, or we leave the situation. I don't think there's any other option in life. What do you think, Goldie?
No, we'll just get really, really stressed and really, really ill.
The 5th option is madness. So, but not if you're on this webinar because you've been informed and you're clearly already committed to being aware, present to reality, and then making choices that are based on your values and what guides you. We haven't gotten into intuition and its role. I don't know if there's something that you can tell us about how you use intuition in guiding your decisions, Goldie.
I mean, I'm relatively intuitive, and I think if I'm not very good at saying no, and still, but then I guess I came out of sport and just had the philosophy say yes to everything and see what you enjoy. So I'm very much into learning and adventure. So I'd like to do every job there is out there. If I could, I would, just to learn. But I know that's not necessarily possible. So it's just, I think for me, it's just being around the right people. And I notice, I'm trying to read these, I'm not very technological because I spent most of my life.
Well, Petra says when she looked at her 6 values, value 1 led to all other values.
Someone talking about authenticity, and that's a big one for me. I can't bear bullshit. That's why I can't work in big organizations, because there's quite a lot of that, and I am relatively authentic and honest. And so yeah, again, I think as human beings we all need connection and a support team, and need to be doing things for a reason, and that generally has to be, usually is around other human beings. So or having a good relationship with yourself primarily. And so yeah, I think it does come back to people always.
Yeah, so it sounds like having a good relationship to yourself, having a good relationship with whatever's around you, I would say it creates a level of psychological safety, which means you can actually have more power and agency in following through with what your heart or whatever is telling you. Zaira here was saying she had a question about those heart moment decisions that break through all doubt. And then once made, there's how do you manage the fear? So that's 2 questions. How do you manage the fear that comes after you've made that decision? So did you have any moments like that, Goldie, where you, either in your athletic career or when you were in the transition or in your new career, where you thought, right, I know what I need to do? I've had one of those on the journey, and it was quite spectacular, and I'm wondering if you might share any that you've had.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I know when I'm no, I probably shouldn't say that. Like, when you're, I don't know how best to say it, but when you're turned on, effectively, I think. Excited, like you know about it, I think. So therefore, I just am a great believer in whatever excites you the most, you should go after that, really.
Right, yeah.
And I think it's just then the logical brain comes into play, or family, or whoever. The biggest thing for me, certainly with property, because everyone has got some experience of it, but kind of know very, very little about it. Everyone's got an opinion. So, which is why keeping close to your sort of group or tribe or whatever you want to call it is quite important, because even if you read a newspaper article on property on the same day, it's been proven that one paper will say, oh, the market's crashing, the other one will say it's never been better. So, but what I do is, I know what I'm doing, so therefore it's fine. But I think it's very easy to get swayed. So, and those people, I think that's another challenge, is often people closest to you they don't want you to change necessarily, because it sort of invokes something in them that is like, oh shit, I'm not doing anything drastic, or I'm not following my passion. So they often want to keep you at their level.
Yeah.
Again, it's just being around people who kind of boost you up, not drag you down. And there is that whole thing of, look at the 6 people you spend the most time with, and are they radiators or drains? And it's really horrible. Sometimes you do not necessarily have to get rid of people, but not spend too much time with the people who are drains. So you may know for years, or you might even be in a relationship with one, sort of thing. And to identify,
that can be tricky.
Ones, or having a bit of a meltdown.
Yes. Thank you, Goldie. I don't want to take up more of your time, because I know you said you needed to go at 7. So I don't know if there's any final big insight you want to share with us. Otherwise, how can people connect with you or find out more about your work?
I'm the world's worst person on social media, but I have a Twitter account, which is just at Goldie Sayers, or Instagram, I think, is exactly the same. My property investment business is athletepropertyinvestment.com, but again, doesn't get updated very much, so I'm too busy working. And I think I quite like what I do, in that I don't have to do too much on social media. I can create a business without doing too much of that, although I know it is very, very useful. So
okay, athletepropertyinvestment.com otherwise.
Yeah, it's a website, but yeah.
All right, great.
More than I do. But otherwise, I prefer human contact. I'm yeah, anyway, but that's
how strange in today's day and age. Human contact, what is that? Well, thank you so much. So just to finish, if you sign up for the webinar, and if you're watching the replay, for example, then you'll be signed up for Wise Wednesdays, and you'll start hearing from me every week, and occasionally about webinars. So the next webinar, next fearlessness webinar, will be about fearlessly facing imposter syndrome, which is one of those favorite topics that keeps coming back. We didn't touch on it, Goldie, but I'm sure you have lots to say on that. And if you want to come back on the webinar, we'd love to have you.
I just say everyone has it. I don't know why we do it. So everyone thinks they're not very good at whatever they're doing, but that's what makes them good. I don't know why we have such a big issue about it.
I think it's the suffering around it that's the problem. The depression and misery and anxiety.
Unless you're a complete sociopath, everybody has it.
So that will be 31st of July at 6 p.m. If you want to join, you'll get the details through Wise Wednesdays. What else is there? I think that's what I wanted to say. If you want to talk to me about coaching, you can reach out through the website. Some of you are already in contact with me, so we'll speak soon. And I wish you a wonderful summer until July. Goldie, thank you again so much. If anybody wants to say thanks to Goldie in the box, please do. Or if you want to come online and say thank you, that's great. Otherwise, Goldie, I'll let you get back to your busy and exciting life.
Thank you. Lovely to see you all. Good luck, everybody. Hopefully something was helpful.
I'm sure it was. It was fantastic. And thank you for the exercise.
No worries. Pleasure.
Lots of thank yous. See you soon.
See you.
Bye. See you soon, Goldie. See you soon, everyone.